Hey, today I'm going to talk about making titles and videos. Currently I'm working in Premiere, but I also show a little bit of iMovie. But for right now, what I'm trying to talk about is I've been working on this movie here. I often like to shoot video while I'm driving in somewhere, this is in Bogota, South Bogota in Colombia. And I like to slow it down. In this case, I showed some video out the car window, and then I slowed it down 39.47%. So it's kind of slow, and then I put some music in the background that goes along with the video. And this music is from a CD that is copyright free. In this case, I'm going to put a title over top of the beginning of this video, but it is I could use the title sequence here inside of Premiere, which is all good and fun. The biggest challenge in what I don't want to do is use the plain old text that comes with my computer. So your computer has a bunch of fonts that are installed in your computer. The downfall is they're kind of plain. So if we look at any of the titles inside of here, inside of Premiere here, if I click for the title window, I got a list of all these fonts, but they're all kind of plain and boring and normal fonts. Okay, so what I want to do is first is talk about how you can find some interesting fonts, download those, install them into your computer, and then use them as titles. In this case, I'm going to actually use Photoshop for the title because I want to use some of the effects in Photoshop on my text. And then so I'm going to show you how to download some fonts. Let's first do that. Of course, my favorite font site is DAFont, dafont.com. This website has a lot of fonts that you can use, some that you're only supposed to use for personal use, and some that you can use for commercial purposes. Of course, we're teaching a class, so you can probably use it in any of your assignments for right now. But again, there's a little bit of different licensing agreements to these fonts. What are these fonts on the dafont.com? They're fonts that people make and then they upload. So again, people ask for donations, donate to the author. So it's kind of like an open font sort of social media font site. In this case, I'm going to look through some of the fonts, and you got your handwritten ones. I was thinking there's a lot of graffiti in Colombia. I was hoping to get sort of or a stencil might be kind of cool. There's one here for Stencil Army, so that might be nice. I've used this Capture It before. This is a really kind of interesting font. You can look through, you can see download for personal use only if you want one of those. Here's the Bronx by Streets. That's kind of interesting. Army Rust, Urban Sketch. So this is kind of the feel. So think about maybe your footage that you have might determine what kind of font you're going to use. This one seems pretty interesting, so I'm going to download this one. So all you do is hit the download. Most of them come in a zip format. Hopefully they're virus free. I haven't really found a virus on here before, but on other font sites I have. So be very careful. I don't know. Make sure you have some kind of virus protection on, because again, this is people upload this and download it, so it's not something that just be weary. That's all. So I'm going to download this font. And again, I'm going to uncompress it. It puts it in my downloads folder, wherever that's at. Downloads. There we go, downloads. And most of the fonts that you'll find on the website are in two different formats. They're either in the TrueType font or the Open font. So those are the two main different formats. Again, the TrueType font is more of a TTF, TrueType font right here. And then there's one called Open Font. I'm not sure the extension. OP, I think, for some reason, or OTF. Whatever. The new font is by the new format by Adobe is called OpenType. If you want, you can double click on your TTF. If you're on Windows, you can do the same thing usually, or just drag it into the font folder. On Mac, you can just drag it into your font book. There's something called a font book, or if you double click on it, most likely it knows it's a font, and then it'll say, hey, do you want to install it? Right here it says install font. If you hit yes to install it, it'll install the font into your font suitcase. Then you can take advantage of it either in the program or in so in this case I can take advantage of it now inside of Premiere. Oh, if Premiere's running, the font won't be there. One thing to be wary about is if you're installing fonts, usually if you are running the program, you won't be able to take advantage of it. I don't know if it'll show up here. If the program's running, usually you have to quit the program and start the program again, because the fonts are loaded into the program when a program is started. That could be different nowadays, and so on. So I'm not sure if I see it in here. I forgot what it was even called. It's okay. I'm going to use Photoshop instead. So in this case, I'm going to go into Photoshop. I'm just using CS6. You could be using CC, whatever you want. Now, try and use Photoshop if you can for making titles. It's, of course, it's Photoshop. You have all the bells and whistles of your Photoshop program. A lot of times I can just say File, New, and inside the Photoshop File, New program, you'll have a list of film and video. The film and video is basically the size of what you're shooting and what you're editing. In this case, under film and video, you'll notice you have the normal old television style, the NTSC, DV, and then you got a widescreen version. Then you have D1, and then you have your high definition. You got your low high definition, which is 1280 by 720, which is sometimes referred to as the JVC format, because they're the ones who pioneered the 1280 by 720. Again, this is one of the formats you can find also on YouTube. As well as you got the high definition, which is the 1920 by 1080. That's the format that I primarily use most. But if you have a film camera, you can see you have cinema mode here, cinema full, which I don't have. You got a 2K camera, and then you even have a 4K camera. So they have all the different formats, and I'm sure you've seen some of the movies I've posted that talk about the difference between the 4K and things like that. In this case, my video camera shoots at the 1920 by 1080. I'm going to choose that format, and for the background, I'm going to choose transparent, because I am going to superimpose this text over top of the video inside of Premiere, as well as you can do the same inside of iMovie too, and I'll show both of those. So if I hit OK right now, it's going to give me just the plain dimensions, as you can see here. This is the dimensions for my video, so making sure that my size is the same as my video size. Then I can either start with the text inside of Photoshop. There's the text tool right here, and if I click on the screen, it'll allow me to have the I bar, and I can type in my my title, which is Driving in South Bogota. Bogota. And then again, remember we talked about, I'm going to highlight my text. I downloaded the font. If I can remember what it was called, it should show up in my font folder here. If I can remember what, oh, there's Apple Braille. What did I call it? It was an interesting font. Where was it? Oh, let's go back to the font folder. Bronx by Street. Bronx by Street. So I'm going to go Bronx. Oh, here it is. Bronx by Street. And there it is. And then I'm going to use my my selection tool, which allows me to scale it. So I'm going to scale it a little bit. And that's an interesting font. So in addition to just using the font as it is, you can do a variety of things with it, and I'm going to click on my move tool here to let that effect of scaling take effect. There we go. Normally my title, if I'm making a title for a a video, I usually do not put it directly in the middle. I usually put it towards the top a little bit to balance out. You don't have to always put it in the center either. You can put it along the side if you want. But in this case, you can change the color if you want. There is a color option inside of Actually, I'm going to have to select the text first to do that. So again, there's a color option at the top up here. If I select the text, or I believe I can just double click up here. Let's see if that will allow me to change it. There we go. I'm going to start with a kind of a bright color. There was a color option right here at the top. Then in the layer windows inside of Photoshop, you have a variety of options that you can apply to your text under the FX window. So in the layers window, if you do not see layers inside of Photoshop, it's under window layers, under window layers. So inside of Photoshop, in the layers window, I'm going to apply some effects to my text, and I'm going to save it and bring it into Premiere. So under the FX, at the very bottom of the layers window under FX here, you'll see there's you got your bevel and emboss, which looks horrible. I never use that. But you have stroke, which puts a line around it. That's pretty interesting. You might want to, and again, there's a whole bunch of options here. You can turn it down if you want, so it's not so dramatic. I'm just going to put a little bit of stroke, maybe. I'm not sure if I even will use stroke. How about inner shadow? That's kind of a nice effect. Inner glow, ooh, that's too much. Satin, it's kind of like a highlight. Overlay is a separate color that you can apply. Gradient overlay will apply a gradient over top of your text. And if you don't want the black and white that you get here from the gradient text, you can always, once you click on the gradient option in this window, you can click on the little gradient that you have right here. And there's some pre-made ones in there. Boy, we can almost use the Colombian flag colors in there, couldn't we? Or you can make your own if you want. And clicking on the gradient window, you can double click and make your own. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll use the Colombian flag colors. We got our yellow, red, and blue. And then hit OK. And if it's scaled too much, oh, I want it to go the other way. There's some options here. There we go. Actually, it doesn't look very good. I don't like it. I don't like it. How about we just do a plain gradient? Ooh, that's too much. How about we get rid of the gradient? I don't like the gradient. Plain color's fine. So you just hit the checkbox there and it goes away. There is a way of putting a pattern in yours if you want. There's an outer glow, which tends to work. I tend to change it, of course, with something like this. I might make it a dark color. So right here is the color option right here. And so, I mean, you're going to have to go through and look at all the different options for that you can do in Photoshop. Again, you should all learn Photoshop somewhat. It's probably the most important program to learn. This is a little bit more interesting. I kind of liked, I don't know about the red, it kind of looks like blood there. It might not be the most appealing color. So, let me change that. So any effects that you can do in Photoshop, then you can bring right into the program. I'm going to do a little yellow here. I don't know, there's a lot of yellow in the thing. So save your text. You can also save as a Photoshop file. So I can save this as and I would save it in my folder. I don't even know where my files are located. I do have a movies folder in a movies folder here. Driving in Bogota, there we go. I'll save it in there. So make sure you save all your pieces together. Most video editing applications link files together. They don't, when you import this in, it's just a link to the original file. So there's one. The other format, so not all programs can take Photoshop. Now I know I'm using Premiere right now, and in Adobe Premiere, since it's made by Adobe, will take the PSD or the extension inside of Photoshop. If you saw when I was saving it, is Photoshop file was .psd, but not all of them, like iMovie and stuff. It's not as compatible all the time. So the other format you would want to use in this case is probably the easiest one, is the PNG. The advantage of using a PNG is it'll keep this transparent area that's behind your text transparent, and you can superimpose it over top of video footage. So if I hit OK and save this, and I'm not going to compress it, I'm going to choose none for the compression here. If you save as PNG, it'll work fine, and I use PNG all the time in all my video editing applications. So if I just hide Photoshop for now and I go back to my Premiere, I can then import it. So if there's, go under File, Import inside of Premiere, and I can then choose my font. Again, it was in my movies folder, and there in my driving in Bogota folder. Here it is. You could either use the PNG or the PSD, the Photoshop one. If I use the PSD or Photoshop one, I just hit OK, and it's going to ask me merge layers. You can also bring in multiple layers, which I'll show in a different video, how to bring in things that have multiple layers inside to Premiere. Once I have my font in there, I can drag it over top of my video footage. Again, so in my settings window, or my project window over here, and let me zoom in a little bit here. By default, it's going to stretch it out for 2 seconds. So if I drag it into my title window, you'll see my title, and we can look at it. The music. I don't know about that color, but that's what we got going on right now. I'm going to sort of stretch my title out for maybe about another 5 seconds, so it's on the screen for like 10 seconds. So that'll be about 10 seconds. Again, I think I showed in a previous video, probably the easiest way to get your text to fade in and off is to just put a transition at the very beginning. So I'm going to put a dissolve transition at the very beginning of my title. So again, I drag, this is the title, this is the timeline window here. I got my video in video 1, I got my title in video 2. Since video 2 is over top of video 1, my title just shows up, and you'll see the video footage come through, as you can see here. And I put a cross dissolve, or a transition cross dissolver at the very beginning. And I'm going to stretch that a little bit. Nope, that didn't work there. Actually, that's pretty good. I might start the title a little bit later. And then put the cross dissolve at the end. So it's basically going to fade on and then fade off. So here, let's watch. So again, a very simple title. Another thing that you can do in Premiere is you can apply a motion to your text if you want. So instead of the fading in and fading off, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I can take my title. I'm going to remove the fading in and fading off by selecting them and deleting them. You can also, if you double click on your title here, go into your effects controls inside of Premiere, and of course you have your motion in there, and you can do your position or scale, whatever you want, if you want to get big or small. And I'm going to start at the very beginning. So again, I put 2 keyframes sort of halfway through. So from here to here, I'll probably fade in or scale in and then come on. So I'm going to scale it in really kind of slowly. So again, in the effects control window, you have a motion setting. I put some keyframes by hitting the animation toggle switch here, kind of in the middle of where the playhead was right here. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to drag my playhead all the way back to the very beginning, and I'm going to hit some diamonds here. These diamonds right here is to add more keyframes. So these keyframes will be at the very beginning here. And I'm going to scale my, move it a little bit. No, let's not move it. I'm going to scale first. Actually kind of tiny. In fact, let's just scale it. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to hit the spacebar. It's a little faster than I wanted. In fact, I'm going to stretch this out even more. So I'm going to stretch this text out pretty kind of long. I want to slowly come in over a long period of time. So again, I'm going to click here. I'm going to move. I can move my keyframes around inside of this window over here inside the effects control, and if I move it to the left a little bit, it's changing the time. So as it comes, it's going to slowly come up, slowly, and then hit the middle, stay on for a little bit. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So again, a nice big slow fade here. A little bit different than a just simple fade. Don't like the colors, I can tell you that. So if you wanted to change something, like let's say the colors, this is a Photoshop file. Again, in the project window over here inside of Premiere, there is a title right here. It says PSD. If I double click on it, it can actually open it, or right click on it, and you can say open back up, edit original, or edit in Photoshop. There should be an option. So I right clicked on my title, my Photoshop file, my PSD over here, and I'm going to say edit in Photoshop. It'll take me back to Photoshop, and I'm going to click on my text and highlight my text, and then I'm going to change that yellow, ooh, that was horrible, orange, maybe a dark orange. That's a little bit more interesting. I don't know, we'll see. Let's save it inside of Photoshop and then go right back to Premiere, and it should automatically be updated because they're linked files. Ooh, that's kind of more interesting. It goes with the colors of the buildings even. And in fact, I might move my text a little bit. I'm going to go back to my my effects controls window, and I'm going to go to where the keyframes are right here, and I'm going to move it up a little bit so it's in the sky. So that would be this one here. I'm going to move it up a little bit. There we go. Somewhere right around there. There we go. Oops. I did not have the keyframe selected, did I? It just jumped there, didn't it? I'm going to undo that. Hold on. Made a mistake here. So I need to get directly on that keyframe to make that change. There we go. So clicking on these little triangles right here will put it right onto the keyframe. And then let me move it up. There we go. That should be better. So here would be my final title here. So it's going up into the sky a little bit more using the position. So there's a lot of variety of different things you can do. Download some. You can download some fonts and things like that. Oh, I spelled Bogota wrong. I see that now. So let's go back to Photoshop. It's 2 O's, not 2 A's. There we go. Let's change that. There we go. So let's save that, and then again, once you make a change in Photoshop, you can go back to Premiere, and it's automatically updated because it's a linked file. So think of creative ways you can make titles. I'll show some title ways of doing it in After Effects, as well as how you can do something like this in iMovie in another video.